Feels like the first time. Feels like the very first time. Hello, and welcome back to Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, the podcast where Matt and Todd this time go see a movie in the freaking theater, and then we talk about it in the parking lot after the movie. No masks, just free living because we're vaccinated. I am Todd Dover.
And I'm Matt Malloy. And yes, we are back to the roots of the podcast. Two guys sharing their gut reactions in the parking lot of the theater after the movie. After we see the movie.
It's been so long.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So, and we are complying with CDC guidelines and theater guidelines. We did wear masks inside the theater.
Correct.
But inside my car, we don't need to do that because we're vaccinated.
Right.
So.
And we took our masks down anytime we ate or drank. But
right.
if we weren't eating or drinking, boom, back on.
The masks were on. Right. We're very COVID savvy at this point. We've been over a year in this pandemic, and we know how to deal with things. Okay.
Yeah. We know the what here.
Don't bring your criticism against us.
You don't even bring it because you won't like the response.
Yes. So we are reviewing a movie, and I think your intro had little to do with the movie itself, but more to do with the fact that we're back.
100% correct.
In like the very first time when we reviewed Joker.
Yeah. Our 5-minute review.
Our 5-minute review, and we didn't like it. So you can go back and listen to it though. We've evolved and make longer reviews now. Not necessarily better, but definitely longer.
Yeah, we can 100% say it's longer.
Yes. So, the movie we did see was Godzilla vs. Kong. A big monster fighting movie with giant monsters.
Which if I'm correct, what I read about it is the highest grossing movie during the pandemic. Has done the most movie of any movie that came out in theaters.
Yeah. And I would believe that.
Yeah.
There honestly weren't very many to choose from for that title. But this one is
True.
Not only a big movie, but as theaters are starting to open back up now, it's kind of the first one. So
yeah.
Cool to see it. We actually saw it on the IMAX screen, not like the super huge thing that you see at like a museum or something like that.
Yes.
But a bigger screen, and it was a good one for that purpose.
Yeah. Typically, I'm against IMAX or 3D, hands down.
Yes.
But
I'm always against 3D.
Fair enough.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan. Mine's more of a price tag, but sure.
Yeah.
But this one, it's a pretty good movie to see in IMAX, in my opinion.
Yeah, agree with that. So, who's in this? Well, your friend from Stranger Things, not second, but 2 out of the last 3 movies have had a Stranger Things cast member in them.
Oh, yeah.
Concrete Cowboy with Lucas, and this one with 11. Millie Bobby Brown is in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I am thinking clearly, I didn't recognize anyone else, although I haven't watched any of the previous 2 Godzilla movies. So, sure. I'm sure there were people who were in those other movies, but the woman looked familiar to me, who was like the King Kong specialist.
Yes, her name is Rebecca Hall.
Right. She looked familiar, but I don't know what I would have picked her out of. So,
looking at her stuff here, I'm not sure what you would have. I recognized her from The Prestige and The Town.
Gotcha. 2 movies that I have not seen, so.
Oh, well.
maybe she just looks familiar.
She does have a familiar face, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
We also have Alexander Skarsgård of the Skarsgård family. He, I would say he's most notable because he was in I don't know, True Blood or one of those shows.
Okay.
And then he was also Tarzan in one of the Tarzan movies. He's been around.
He's been around.
But I won't say he's like super famous. His family's famous, but
Gotcha.
there's Alexander, there's Bill, there's Kellen. I don't know.
And are they famous for being like
Actors.
acrobats?
Ooh, I wish. We also got Brian Tyree Henry is a guy I recognize him from some other stuff. Yeah, he was nothing super notable though.
Gotcha.
And I don't know if I'm going to say this right. Isa Gonzalez. She has been in several things. She was in Baby Driver. She was in Fast and Furious, Hobbs and Shaw. But the reason we should know her is that she was the main character's girlfriend in I Care a Lot.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And then two last people that I at least want to
Yes.
highlight. One is Julian Dennison. He was in Deadpool 2. He was the Fire Fist kid.
Okay.
And then Lance Reddick was in the John Wick movies as the hotel concierge.
Okay.
Oh, and Kyle Chandler. Can't forget Kyle Chandler. Texas Forever.
Right.
And that's it.
Okay. So.
And obviously Godzilla and Kong. So.
Right. They are famous. They are more famous than anyone else that we mentioned.
Yes.
So yeah, so I think this list of people, Millie Bobby Brown is probably the most famous person out of the list, but some of them are notable in their own ways. So what's Godzilla versus Kong about? It's kind of complex.
It is a lot more complex than you would think it is with a title like that.
You would think it's just like, hey, Godzilla and King Kong are going to fight and they're going to mess some stuff up and they're going to hurt each other and someone's going to win.
Yeah. And while that does happen,
yeah, there's a lot more.
There's a lot more stuff that happens too.
Yeah. So, I have not watched the two preceding movies to this, but I don't think you need to. They just provide more backstory kind of to what's operating. So in this world, there are these large beasts called Titans, and nobody really knows exactly how they got here. But there are some theories that are discussed during this movie, which I'll share a little bit about. But you start out with like, hey, there's a scientist who's like been working with Kong inside this like domed environment, I guess. It's like a huge environment on Skull Island.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's on Skull Island.
Right. If you know about Skull Island.
If you saw Kong Skull Island, then
you know. So, and it's like clear that Kong is not going to be staying there forever. Like he's trying to destroy the environment and get his way out and stuff like that. But he has a bond with the little girl who's deaf, who is the scientist woman's daughter. Or not daughter, well, adopted daughter, I guess you could say.
Sure. She's the last survivor of the people who lived on Skull Island that you find out about in the movie Skull Island.
Gotcha. So maybe you should see these other movies. So
I don't think it is that important. I wish it was more important, but it's really not. I mean, it's just like little small things here and there.
Gotcha. Okay. So you got that going on, and then you got this Godzilla comes and attacks a robotics company, which there's a whole bunch of research and stuff going on at this robotics company, and Godzilla has been generally peaceful towards the people of Earth and like almost protecting people to this point is what I read into the backstory. And then out of nowhere he kind of comes and lays waste to this facility on the coast of Florida. And so we sort of get our point of view of this attack and point of view about this company called Apex from like a podcaster. Shout out to podcasters and characters who are podcasters. There's a podcaster guy who's like kind of a conspiracy theorist. And is he in the other movies?
No.
Okay, so he's new for this.
He's a new one.
This iteration. So he's like, his identity is not known. He just records these podcasts, and he apparently works at Apex Robotics. And he's like, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on there. But he's also like, don't drink tap water because that's how they control you. So some of what he says is believable. Some of it is like, nah, that's just straight conspiracy theory, conspiracy theory stuff. Yes,
there it is.
So what happens is he sort of experiences the attack from within, and like when everyone else is evacuating, he's going deeper and he sees some weird stuff going on inside the facility. And then he later connects with Millie Bobby Brown and her character and another friend of hers. And they figure out who he is, and then they work together as a team to try and go infiltrate the building that has been destroyed by Godzilla. So there's part of the setup.
Yeah. We're still only like the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yes. Okay. So then the next thing that happens is like the leader of the Apex Robotics company goes to talk to this scientist who wrote this book about Hollow Earth. So what is Hollow Earth? It's this theory that like inside of like under the crust of Earth, there's this open area, and that's where the Titans have come from. And you could get there. You have to like be able to withstand a gravity inversion because you're going down and then you're going up, and then gravity changes and all this stuff. But the leader of the Apex company is coming to this guy and is like, we have the vehicles that we need to withstand this gravity switch thing, these heaves, I think they're called. And we want you to lead an expedition to go and find like a power source that's inside Hollow Earth. So he's really concerned about the power source, and this guy's like, I think I want to help you, but I think all the Titans come from this area, and I think we need one to lead us to the right spot. And I think we should use King Kong. So he goes and talks to the scientist lady, and he's like, hey, this is what I want to do. We have to transport King Kong if you agree to this. And he can't stay here anyway. And she's like, I know. So they decide to transport King Kong across the world to Antarctica, where they are going to get in these vehicles and go into the Hollow Earth. Along the way, there's a battle between Godzilla and Kong. That's fine. I mean, I'll talk more about the battles between the monsters, but as far as the plot goes, all you really need to know is that they battled.
Yeah. Well, the only thing you really need to know is that they're both alphas.
Yes.
And there can't be two alphas.
Right.
And so they put the containment field around Kong so that Godzilla could never sense him.
Right.
Once they took him out, though, Godzilla came a-running.
Yes. So there's a sea battle. So anyway, after that battle ends, Godzilla kind of leaves, and Kong stays with the human people, and they end up going into Hollow Earth, and he leads them to like wherever he came from and finds a mystical axe, and other stuff happens after that. Then back in the real world, it's the Millie Bobby Brown team of podcasters and conspiracy theorists get accidentally shipped on an unknown tunnel through the earth to Hong Kong, and they end up there at another Apex Robotics facility where we find out. I'm not going to reveal the other creature that's in this.
Yeah.
But there's another creature who who rises out of that facility. And super weird stuff that goes along with that. But I don't think it should be shared at this point. But all that to say, they do find some kind of power source. They do transmit some of it back to the not hollow earth. And then the two scientists and the little girl come back out of hollow earth. And then there's a big confrontation between Kong and Godzilla and another creature in Hong Kong.
And a mystical axe.
And the mystical axe comes into play. It gets charged up and discharged several times.
Yes.
So woo! There's a lot going on in this movie. But I think that captures enough of the plot without spoilers.
Yeah, I think you're good.
What did you think of this, Todd?
Well, I have to start by saying that even though I admit some of them have not been good, I really like King Kong, Godzilla movies. I like giant monster movies like that. And I especially got a soft spot for Godzilla and Kong as the most famous to me giant monster movies.
For real, for sure.
So I don't want to crap on it too much, but I think they can definitely sense from you unraveling the plot that there's a lot going on here, and it's just a lot more than there should be. Like, I was very much like when I saw the trailers, and I was like, man, this axe thing looks really dumb, but I kind of come around to it because it's like it's just a stick with an ancestor of Godzilla's, one of its like spine fins just tied to a stick. And
right.
I was like, all right, whatever. I think a monkey could do that. So, but yeah, there's flashes of this could have been such a great movie. Like there's some elements there in this movie that I'm like, man, it was there. You just overcomplicated things. Like, less is more. I don't know how many times I'm going to say it. But you could have, in my opinion, and what frustrates me the most is kind of just centered around Millie Bobby Brown's ragtag team of podcasters and conspiracy theorists. That I'm like, we could have done without all of that. If you cut all of that out of it, it would have been a better movie to me. But like for any of these movies, the fight scenes between Godzilla and Kong are great and very visually pleasing to the eye in IMAX. And, you know, those are really what you come for movies like this. And I feel on that level, it was great. All the other more supporting stuff of that, not so great. You know, some stuff was good, some stuff was pretty bad. So, I will definitely say, go see this movie. Like, it's the stuff that subtracts from it is not so much that it made me not enjoy myself. The fight scenes and all the cool visual effects, like, make it well worth it to see this movie, in my opinion. If you're not into that kind of stuff, if you're not into CGI and all that kind of stuff, then, you know, this is probably not the movie for you. But you probably already knew that. So, yeah, I mean, I had high hopes for it. It was somewhat disappointing. It did hit some of those high hopes in some areas, but it definitely fell short in other areas. So I was kind of personally let down by this movie. But still support it. Still think people should watch it. if you're vaccinated, I say go to the theater and watch it.
Ooh, yeah.
But you can also watch it on HBO Max. So,
Boo.
yeah. And so that's where I'm going to end it. If you feel like you want to make a trek back to the theater, I think this is a great movie to bring people back to the theater. It's a big blockbustery movie. It was good for the most part. And yeah, I think definitely people should see this movie. Matt,
Great.
what did you think as the person who didn't see the other movies coming before this?
Yeah.
Where do you stand with giant monster movies? Kaiju?
I'm okay. I don't know what kaiju means, but I'm okay with giant monster movies. And is that what it means? Giant monster?
I think it's loosely the term for like giant monster movies. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't use that term in confidence.
gotcha.
Maybe I sounded confident, but it was all a ruse.
It's all good. So, yeah, I mean, I think the draw to this movie for me was the giant monsters and like seeing how they were portrayed and seeing how they were sort of animated, filmed, whatever you want to call it. The movie magic around them. So yeah, in general, I'm positive towards this type of movie. This particular movie, first I'll start with the good. The good was the monsters themselves. I mean, they were so well animated and so lifelike. Really good. And another really good thing is when they were fighting.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times when you get like giant things fighting, you get like this what do I want to say? Like a sense of just flashes of the battle, and like you can't see the whole thing very well, and you're only seeing like a fist shooting through the air, something like that. And it's very jumbled. This movie did a great job of making the battles smooth. Like, it wasn't jumpy. It wasn't like the camera's shaking. It was like, okay, we're shooting a movie here and we're going to show you exactly what's happening, and you're going to understand what's happening and not have to like piece it together in your mind as the camera is shaking and going all over the place like you get in some battle scenes in some movies. Very smooth, you could catch all the details of the giant monsters fighting. And, you know, that is really the best thing about this movie, is those battle scenes. So well filmed, so well animated, so well produced. So, on to the not so good. You know, with movies like this, there's probably going to be 4 or 5 things that are, you've got to suspend your disbelief because they don't make any sense and they're just there to kind of help the plot go forward.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of those moments in here in this movie. But on a deeper level, and you said this too, there's too much story. There's too many plot characters. I mean, you heard how long it took me to just explain the basic plot of the movie.
For a movie called Godzilla vs. Kong.
Right. There really was too much time spent on all these kind of subplots and revenge plots and grasps for power and all this stuff, when really you just wanted the monsters to fight more, really is what I wanted.
Yes.
So I agree that while Millie Bobby Brown is probably the biggest star in this film, I would have cut her out of the movie.
Yeah.
They could have figured out a different way to move the exposition over to Hong Kong, where the final confrontation is going to take place, without her gang going through a tunnel. Which, honestly, them going through the tunnel was one of the most boring parts of the movie. It's like they cut away and they cut back and they're still going through the tunnel.
Yeah. No, it was bad. That part was real bad. And also, so the movie before this one was Godzilla King of the Monsters, and there was obviously some human parts in that movie, but I didn't mind. I thought they did a better job with the human parts.
Yeah.
So they built these characters that I was like, I wanted to see them return because they're now a part of this universe to me. And then only 2 characters returned, and it was the characters I really didn't care about.
Gotcha.
That, but Millie Bobby Brown's the star. You got to bring her back, shoehorn her into this movie.
She was in the other one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, and her dad.
Oh, they're the 2?
They're the 2 that returned. Her
Gotcha.
friend wasn't in it. The podcaster guy wasn't in it. Every other human in the movie was not in the other.
I see. So, well, anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I agree with you. I think anyone can see this movie. It's not too scary, really. Kids over 8, 9 can see this, no problem. I guess there are some kind of gory scenes where heads get ripped off of things.
It is PG-13, I think. So.
All right. So 13.
There you go.
If you're over 13, watch this movie. So, but yeah, I enjoyed myself, and that's what I'll say about that.
Nice. Well, how many, I gotta pick something monster-ish. How many atomic breaths would you give this movie? Atomic fire? Atomic laser? I don't know. Whatever Godzilla shoots out of his mouth.
I think it's atomic breath.
Yeah. How many atomic breaths would you give this movie?
Yeah.
Which Godzilla uses a lot in this movie.
It's true.
Much more than the other movies.
Yeah, it's used quite a bit. So it is referred to as atomic breath, but it is more like a laser that he shoots out of his mouth.
Yes.
That kind of can be sustained and go on and on. So he could he uses a laser to drill down through the earth into hollow earth.
Yeah.
In the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, or atomic breath. So, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 atomic breaths being the best, I'm going to give this movie, I'm going to give it a 3.
Nice.
That is, it would be higher if the story was better, if the acting was better, but the monster part of the movie, which you have to say is got to be the most important part of Godzilla versus Kong. It's got to be Godzilla and Kong.
Sure.
Is done so well that it boosts the rest of the movie up. So I'm going to go with 3. Straight up 3.0 atomic breaths.
It's been a 0.0 type of ratings, last 2 ratings for
yes.
you. 1.0, 3.0.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 3.5.
Okay.
And my reasoning behind a 3.5 atomic breaths is that while I was frustrated with all these kind of subplots that I was like, we could really do without, I was so engrossed in the giant monster fighting stuff that it's not that it brings up the other parts to me, because I'm like, man, those are still pretty bad. It just makes me forget about them.
Gotcha.
So I'm able to focus on that stuff because I thought it was so good. And I'm also slightly biased. So
yeah,
3.5 is where I'm at.
Great.
Which gives us a 3.25.
That's right.
Woo!
3 1/4 atomic breaths out of 5. So that's pretty good for us. We do recommend you see this movie. And we even recommend, if it's safe, COVID-wise, go see it in the theater. Maybe on a bigger than the normal screen, if you have the option. Because it is taking advantage of that.
Yes.
So
we here at the Matt and Todd Go to the Movies podcast are pro theaters, as long as you keep it safe.
Yes. Keep it safe. Keep it strong. All right. Well, before I wrap up, I will mention we have a new social media outlet.
Oh, yes.
We have expanded into the world of Instagram. So on Facebook, you can find us at Matt and Todd Go to the Movies. Like that whole thing. Matt and Todd Go to the Movies.
Mm-hmm.
On Instagram, it's slightly different. It's Matt Todd Go to the Movies. There's no and.
There's no and.
But the rest of it is all there.
Wait, was that because there was another Matt and Todd Go to the Movies?
No, it's honestly because I wasn't really thinking too clearly. I just made it without the and. I was like, oh, well, I can't put an ampersand because we use the ampersand.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So there's no and symbol. And I wasn't thinking like, well, we are this on Facebook, so it'll be fine on Instagram. But anyway, so you'll be able to see when we post new episodes on Instagram now if you follow us there as well as on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, catch us on the gram.
Catch us on the gram.
And yes, but other than that, thank you, listeners, for listening to our podcast. We're going to keep making these, and have a great day.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da.
da da da.